So as we get started with the games, these are all going to be adaptations from your Equipping Minds cognitive development curriculum. So for those of y'all who have this, fabulous. If you don't have it, it is now also available as a download version on the Equipping Minds website under the shop. So if you're in a different country, or for some reason maybe you have the 2015 and want the new edition, you can get that there. You can still get a hard copy as well, but wanted to let you be aware of that. So, as you know, one of the very first games in Equipping Minds is Let's Match an Extreme Memory. And so as we're thinking what the kids might have at home, we are going to get a deck of cards, okay? And as you'll see there, we're going to ask them to match 2 items, and then we will gradually increase. So as we're looking for different items around the house, I am going to take my playing cards and actually use these as my 3-grid board. Now, in your teacher book, and I will tell you in the handout you got, I'm going to let you see all the different things that we're providing. You will see in the handout that I'm giving them the 6-grid board, okay? But not all your families may be able to print this off. If they are, fabulous. But if they're not, you can either use a deck of cards or even just come over here, take a sheet of paper and create your own grid. Just take a sheet of paper and make 3 grids, okay? So just trying to give you some different options there. So what are we going to match? Well, I'm going to put the other grid down, and then I'm going to take just some coins right now. And hopefully whatever country you're in, you've got some coins, and I'm going to take a quarter and a penny and a dime, okay? And then I'm going to give the students one of each and see if they can simply match what I did, okay? And as you know, that's an important first step when we're playing Equipping Minds, to just see if they can match what you did. If you happen to have your Unifix cubes, then you can absolutely, I see you putting, you know, a blue cube and a green cube and a red cube. And then you would ask the student to match what they see. And so they could put their blue cube, their green cube, and their red cube. Okay, and so that's a really simple way to just play Let's Match. Now you're going to see in your book, and as you know, we can do that on a 3-grid board, we can do it on a 6-grid board, and then in your handouts, you also got a 9-grid board, okay? So you can put items down and just see, can they simply match what they're seeing, okay? It's so important as a first step, and as you heard Rachel say, when they see that they can do those beginning steps, it just starts to build some confidence there. Now, if they can do that, then you know what the next step is. And what we have been using, I will take just a sheet of white paper, for example, and I'm going to fold it in half. And then I'm going to take my cubes and I am going to set up a pattern. And this is where I will ask the student to take a picture in their mind of what they see. Now, depending on the level of your student, you may need to say, I see red, I see green, I see blue, or, you know, I see a quarter, I see a penny, I see a dime. Um, and ask them to take a picture. And when they say, I have my picture, then you will cover it up and then ask them to match what they saw. Okay? And so then we would let them, get their cubes, and they're going to go ahead and see if they can match. And let's say this is what they do. Then you're going to lift up your paper and you're going to ask them, oh, do we have a match? And they're probably going to notice that they don't. And we'll say, okay, let's check. I see red. Oh, what do you need to do to help it match? And then the student would fix it. Okay? So that's how I use the language with this game. And you would gradually increase that from 3 items to 4 items to 5 items to 6 items, all the way up to 9 items. If you are someone who can hold on to 9 different items, then you are doing fabulous. Your visual memory is phenomenal. Now, what can you use? You can use absolutely anything. You could use little Lego men. I've got some Lego men with me today. You could use Lego pieces. You can use letters. Okay, so I'll use letters, I'll use numbers. You don't have to have letter pieces or number pieces. You can also simply come in and on the board, you can actually then just write those. So you can come in and you can write a 3, a 1, and a 5. Okay? So you don't have to have the letter pieces or number pieces. You can actually write those. Now, for those of y'all who are familiar with Equipping Minds, and everyone's going to get to learn these by the end of the day, you can also draw symbols. And for those of y'all who are familiar with Equipping Minds, you may know that a circle is also a bear, a triangle is a cat, and an X is a fish. And so we would ask them to take a picture in their mind, and then we would cover that up and then ask them to draw what they saw. Now, one of the most important things with this game is that you go and then you give them a turn. Let the student have a turn. It's also a game you can play by yourself. So imagine that you're just playing by yourself and you're sitting here thinking, I couldn't hold on to 3 things, or I can't hold on to 5 things. Then you would do exactly the same thing that you saw me do, is you would make a pattern, and then you would come in here, make a pattern, cover it up, and then wait 10 seconds. And then see, can you match what you just did? Okay, so even though you put it down, I think we always say, if I'm just randomly putting it down, I may not still remember what I just did. So you can play that even by yourself, even though it's more fun with another person. Now, one of the goals of this game is that it's a visual memory. So ideally, they are not saying red, blue, green, red, blue, green, red, blue, green, red, blue, green, okay? However, sometimes that does happen. But you heard me say it's okay to say, oh, I see red, I see blue, I see green. And then to think about that and imagine, let's try it right now. Just imagine closing your eyes for me and saying, I see red, I see blue, I see green. And can you visualize those cubes in that box? And that's going to take some time if someone's visual memory is not strong. What I'm going to tell you is that it's okay to go back and forth between drawing symbols. We have had students who get really stuck with the cubes, but we start drawing those animal symbols and they're holding on to 3 and 4 animals very easily. You may have students who are better in math, and so putting down the numbers, they may be able to hold on to 4, 5, 6 numbers, but the cubes may be challenging. Or the same thing with letters. So please play this game interspersing those different areas, okay? And then you can finally get really creative and you can actually put down, if you want to, you could have a cube, a number, and a letter, and do 3 different things, okay? So just get really creative with extreme memory and let's match. Now, something that's new that you're probably seeing if you look at your handout there is then we're going to do a game with the cards where we're going to place the cards face up. And so go ahead and try this for me. If you have a deck of cards, I see you getting out your cards. Y'all would be disappointed if you didn't hear me saying, I see you. Getting out your deck of cards and putting 12 cards face up, okay? So we'll just put 12 cards face up. And initially, I like to do things where you're taking turns. It's really important for you to use language and model for your students. So if you can do that for me, that's fabulous. And what we're going to do here, it says to place the cards face up and find the same number or shape. So when you look down, you're looking and saying, oh, okay, I see 3 and 3, same number. Okay, everybody play for a little bit with your cards if you've got them. Okay, I see A and A, or we're going to call the A1 as well. Same number and letter. I see spades and spades, same shape. I see diamonds and diamonds, same shape. I see 6 and 6, same number. And then I'm stuck with those 2. Okay. So if you've got your cards, do that for me. You can have 12 cards, you could have 15 cards, you could have 18 cards, and you could also do it where you're even racing. I never put the racing in the competitive piece until I know that they understand the game, and that it is, it's going to be to everybody's advantage and we can handle, okay, they got done first, okay, or they had the most matches at the end, and you're just always saying, hey, nicely played, good game. But that is a really fun one to do, and you're doing a lot of visual scanning there, and we always have them use language. If you're new to Equipping Minds, the one thing you're going to hear me say over and over and over is use language, use language, use language. So when they are looking for those matches, unless you have a student who's nonverbal, okay? If you have a nonverbal student, and I work with a lot of nonverbal students, then you will be their voice. So if they picked up their cards and, you would say, oh, heart on heart, if they're nonverbal. But if you have verbal students, then absolutely you want them saying heart on heart or 2 on 2 and picking up those matches. Now, some of you are also going to have a deck of cards that might actually not be their traditional deck. When I was playing with some students today, I have a student I was with in France this morning, and they had just gotten back from a trip to Egypt. So her deck of cards had in the middle had pictures of famous items in Egypt. So could also have played, oh, pyramid and pyramid. I was on with another student who has Star Wars cards. And she, oh, here's Luke Skywalker, Luke Skywalker. Who's Princess Leia, Princess Leia. So if you also happen to have a deck of cards that has a character, that comes into play as well. So it was kind of a fun thing that I was learning this morning. Okay, the next one is an advanced. So this time I see you taking your deck of cards and placing them face down. Y'all ready? So we're going to put them face down, and I'm going to put 12 cards down. And so then the student would go in and turn over a card and say, oh, I see 9 black clubs. And then they get to choose another card. And I'm going to come up here. I see 7 red diamonds. And I'm looking for a match. And as you know, it's a deck of cards, so there's only 1 9 club, but I'm checking, do my numbers match or does my shape match? And I do not have a match, so I have to turn them back over. Okay, so now I'm going to come down. Oh, I see 8 black clubs. Okay, everybody, did you remember? Right beside clubs and clubs, I have a match. So I would pick those up. Now, you can either choose to not put anything down, okay, initially, because that could be easier versus going ahead and adding more cards, which would be more challenging to hold on to that. So I turn over another card. I see 6 black spades. I'm going to check the one above it. Oh, I see 7 black spades. Okay, so spades and spades, I have a match. Okay. And I'm going to turn it over. I see 5 black clubs. I see 4 black spades. Do I have a match? I don't. I didn't match my number or my shape. Okay. Let's try here. Oh, wow. 1 red ace. That's a diamond. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and that was, oh, 5 red hearts. Okay, so everybody, I have 5 red hearts. I need my 5 black clubs. Is that what everybody was remembering? I hope so. So 5 and 5, I have a match. Okay, so that is another way to work on memory. And you heard me saying, I see 5 black clubs. I see 5 black hearts. Oh, 5 and 5, I have a match. So using that language, and it's going to be important for you to model that language for them. Now, the next one you see there is advanced memory. So advanced memorization, memorize 1 card, then 2 cards, 3 cards, 4 cards. If you've been on the Equipping Minds YouTube channel, and if you haven't, I hope you will go there and watch the free 8-week workshop. But under the Equipping Mind games, you're going to see one of our students who had memorized almost the entire deck of Blink, okay? And in it, you see her mom just, she says it, turns over the card, she memorized it. And she eventually got the entire deck, which is phenomenal. But how did we do that? 1 card at a time. And so just that first day, picking a card. Now, what a lot of moms have done, teachers have done, is they have identified on the back of the card, maybe they've written a number 1 for the first card, a 2, because sometimes the teacher or the parent has not been able to keep up with the student. So that is something that you can also do with a deck of cards. Now, why would we bother doing that? A couple things. As you know, and this is where I want to help you see the power in this. When we're using the deck of cards, we've already seen that we were looking at numbers. We can use letter pieces. We're using colors. We're using symbols. We're using objects. And math, reading, comprehension all assume that the student can visualize, hold on to multiple letters and numbers and colors and sounds and directions at one time to be able to do a math problem, to be able to read, to be able to spell, to be able to get their thoughts down for writing. And a lot of times that's just simply not happening, and traditional remediation is not always getting. It may help pass a test. You may see some progress, absolutely, but we need to go in and strengthen that working memory with numbers and letters and objects. And this is just a great, fun way to do it. The other thing before we go to the next game is when we're doing Equipping Minds, we always say, hey, let's play our games. Let's do our brain games. And we always keep it incredibly positive. We only want you doing Equipping Minds when you're having fun, that it's something positive. So maybe it's that you play for 15 minutes, then maybe 15 minutes later or whatever. It is just important to keep it engaging, because if maybe you saw one of the reports, one of the biggest things that's hitting everybody is even just fear right now. And when we're afraid, our body releases cortisol, and cortisol, that stress hormone, really shuts down our brain. And so, well, that's why we need to keep it positive. And you always want to meet them where they're at. Now, the other thing, when you notice that, wait, holding on to 3 things was hard. Well, when they get 2 things right, I just want you to celebrate that. Maybe it's getting 1 thing right. Hey, nicely done. I like how you're thinking. Great job. Okay, and now they get 2 things right. Oh, wow, you're doing fabulous. And then they get to the 3rd thing. And that's when it was challenging. And that's where I want you to do this. I want you to say, oh, I'm so excited. This is where it's challenging for you. This is great. This is where we're going to get your brain stronger. Because if it's all easy for them, that means that part of the brain's already strong. So I always get super happy and excited when it gets challenging. You've probably heard me say, hey, hard is good. Now, frustrating is not good. But hard, a good, hey, oh, I'm having to work at this. I'm having to think. One of my students yesterday, it was great. We were doing this game, and his older sister is also in the session helping out. And he had put 1 thing down, and he was thinking about the other, and she kind of jumped in and said, well, what did you, and he just looked at her and said, I'm still thinking. So it's important to also let them have time to stop and think. Okay, so that's our extreme memory and let's match. And we could talk forever about different creative things you could do there. And that's the beauty with Equipping Minds, is that I love you to get creative and then share with me what you did.